Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 195. Welcome, everybody who is in the chat room. And if you'd like to be in the chat room, please do click the link below and join Patreon. $5 a month, and you can come to 2 lives a week and participate in the community. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Please do subscribe to the channel. However, all of my videos are public once the lives are over, so you won't miss anything except being in this great group of people. And it's fun to hang out, and it's fun for me to be able to have interaction and to be able to answer questions. And also, y'all have great things to say, and you make me laugh. So I like doing live shows. So hit the thumbs up. Yeah, that always helps, I'll tell you. Hi, Lisa. She just rolled in. I said hello to everybody else prior to that. So you can see and hear me. Okay. Always a question. Well, by the way, it has been an exhausting day. I have spent the last night and today watching the Sherri Papini documentary, which I just finished doing a video on. And it was intended to be a 15-minute video, but it turned into an hour. So sometimes I can't shut up. But that, wait a minute, what's going on here? A second, hold on. I got to find it. Yeah, here it is. So this is what I called it. The Sherri Papini documentary, Caught in the Lie. That's the name of it. And still lying. Yeah. It's from Investigation Discovery. It's on Max. I had to buy Max again for the month so I could see it. And it's interesting, but it also, I find it very one-sided. A lot of people coming on to say how they think maybe she is telling the truth now, and her psychologist comes on there and backs her, and the lawyers come on and back her, and her husband's sister comes on and backs her, and her parents, of course, haven't learned their lesson yet as to what they have spawned. But anyway, there's a lot of just, it's a weird in a way. And it's the thing that always bothers me is I don't like people like her getting a platform, and she's got a huge one. And she supposedly has a book coming out. So you know what that means. I mean, she may have been paid a lot for this documentary because she is a free woman. She's out of prison, so she can get paid a lot. And even though they claim they don't do these things, they do. And a book coming out, I'm going to guess it's going to be a major publisher, because why wouldn't a major publisher pick up the Sherri Papini book, right? So she'll make a lot of money off of that too. So it's kind of disgusting that she committed this crime, this hoax, and messed up a whole bunch of people's lives. And now she gets to be a celebrity, and everybody's supposed to feel sorry for her. Yeah. Yeah, Frida's correct. Crime does pay sometimes. It does, especially in this world, where once upon a time you committed a crime and the newspapers might have put you out there, and maybe not in a good way, but that was it. You didn't get documentaries done about you and big publishers pulling you in, because they're more interested. They're interested in how much money they can make. They don't care about the truth. And I pointed that out a while back when I did the video, which I had to pull down because of YouTube, and it was the channeling channel, and the woman who runs it had a book published, two books that her dead son wrote from heaven. And if you want to believe that, bully for you, but she published a dead person wrote the book, and a big publisher published it. And she made good money off of it. And I don't know that, I think she's more into attention than she is into the money, because she's quite wealthy anyway. But, but you can have a person who goes there with a wonderful story, that heartwarming and everything great. And they're like, who the hell are you? We're not publishing it. Great fiction. Yeah. Who the heck are you? Oh, I see. You're Sherri Papini. Let's go for it. It's very frustrating. Carla says, my life is too short to give Sherri Papini 30 seconds of my time. Yeah, and I just gave her I didn't give her 4 hours, but I wanted to see, of course, that's my job, is to analyze. I wanted to see what they were trying to say, that she was now telling the truth. That is now, the real story is coming out, is what she says. Yeah. Okay, sure. Anyway, yeah, so I was stuck doing that. So that was very, very frustrating. What did you say? Tetherford says, oh, you watched? Yeah, etched. I think that's watched, but the Papini documentary was so long, I had to switch it off after. It was too long. That is also true. So, so that was what I did during my day. Now, just to catch up on just the pleasant thing before I get into all the crime stuff. I did tell you last week I was going to see Porgy and Bess, and I did do that. There it is. I went to the Kennedy Center Upper House, and my friend got me these seats. Can you believe it? I mean, Augusta seats. It was awesome. She gets a complimentary ticket, and that's what I ended up with. So, I could be up there in the nosebleeds, but I wasn't. And yeah, it was just lovely. And that's the Kennedy Center, and it was really good. Enjoyed myself very much. It was a nice evening, afternoon out. It was a matinee, so I had a good time. I could drive into Washington during the day because it's not that much fun to drive in there, and had a good time. And then met my friend afterwards, and we had dinner together. It was very nice. So sometimes you just need a day off. And as far as the cat question goes, this is Mac. He's sitting there waiting for me to get the food onto my lap, and he does open his eyes occasionally. And he sort of squints at me. So I'm not sure that's actually the most cheerful look, but there he is. That's Mac. So he's still coming. So, yeah, it was very. I mean, Porgy and Bess is an absolute fantastic opera, and Denise Graves. Denise Graves is a fantastic singer, and she didn't play Bess. I thought I didn't see the show where I thought she was going to play Bess, but this was a matinee, so somebody else was playing her. Turned out she wasn't playing Bess, but she was the one that sang Summertime, which is a gorgeous song. And when I heard Summertime, I said, this is the best singer of all, and I didn't know it was her. And so later on, I found out it was Denise Graves, which is why it was so darn good, because she's that fabulous a singer. So it was really fun. I enjoyed it. And I have to say, I don't know if anybody knows the story of Porgy and Bess, but Bess is a young woman who is hooked up with this bad guy named Crown, and he is a bad guy. He kills a guy, and Porgy comes in. She stays with Porgy, who's a cripple. That's what they call him in the show, cripple. This show he has crutches and a leg that doesn't work, but in the movie with Sidney Poitier, he's on his knees. And so she stays with him, and she finds he's such a better man. But then she gets, she gets attracted back to Crown, the bad guy, the bad boy. And I was watching that show, and I'm like, not the movie, but the opera, and I'm like, yeah, I'd go with Crown. Crown was hot. I was like, yeah, I see they picked a good Crown, because I'm like, dang. Anyway, so. He will never be feral. Crown was kind of feral, but no, he's a feral since, I don't know if you're quite what you're saying, but Mac the cat has been feral forever. He was definitely never anybody's kin. He's a 100% feral. That's for sure. It looks like he's plotting your demise. He is like that. Sometimes I say after he finishes eating, he gets up and walks, and he turns around and he just goes. I'm like, I just fed you, But no, he doesn't meow. He'll only hiss, but he's hissing less. So I guess that's something. So, but anyway. All right, to the new stuff. One of the things I really want to talk about, because I was asked about these issues of updates. I have 3 updates I want to talk about, which is, one is the Nova Scotia missing children. The second one is Asha Degree. And the third one is Jennifer Kesse. And you have to be aware of updates, because one of the problems that we have with the 24/7 media is they love updates, and so do YouTubers. So a lot of people spend, you keep going to these updates and updates because you want to update. I understand that. I want the update too, but there's so much that is not really an update, and it's frustrating. And this one came off of YouTube, and I thought this was really, this is when I call somebody a grifter, Let me see if I can find it. Where to put it? Hold on a second. All my pictures are out of order today because I just got them up just in time because I put up the video and I was way behind. Here we go. All right, this is a person named Bullhorn Betty, and I've never liked her channel. Sorry, Betty. But this is what she put up. Breaking news: remains found of the 2 kids. And she puts the names of the kids up there. Remains found. And a lot of people did get very upset with this, and they said it in the comments. The remains weren't the 2 children. They found some remains like 200 miles away or 2.5 hours away or something. They found some remains in Nova Scotia, far away. So she puts this up, remains found, and puts the children's pictures there and their names. So everybody assumes it's this is what you call 100% clickbait. And I find that despicable because I did the same thing everybody else does. Oh my God, did they find the remains of these children? Because it looked that way. Now, I don't know anything about the remains at this point that they found far away. I think it was a couple hours away. Was it an adult male? What was it? I don't know. Now, could it be the remains of 2 children if the police are being tight-lipped? Could be, because one of the things I've said is that we don't know the 2 children that went missing. There was, as far as I can see, nobody had laid eyes on them except the mom and the stepfather the supposed morning they went missing. There was almost a 3-day window there where nobody had seen them, as far as I know, except those 2. And maybe there were some others living right there in the house. There's supposedly some other people living on the property. I don't know. But if nobody had seen them except those 2, that gave them 2 to 3 days to work with. Now, so you can put children in a car and drive 2 to 3 or 4 hours away and put the body somewhere in far, far away from your house in the woods somewhere and in the wilds, and maybe they'll never be found because nobody's looking over there. They're looking around the house, right? So when you say remains found, even if they are 2 hours away, they could be theoretically the children's, but don't put out remains found in the children's picture as if that is the remains. That to me is just clickbait, and it's rather sickening, and I find that offensive. So that's another term. Delphi says Bullhorn Betty is dangerous and total grifter. Yeah, I have not been fond. Well, remains. No, remains is not plural. It's remains. The remains of a body. They are the different remains of your body. So it can be a single person or more than one person. Yeah. Hi, UK Royal Watcher. Welcome. Carla says YouTubers also love breaking news, which it rarely is. This is true. So you have to just to be careful when you see these things. And I looked myself because I'm following this story, and I'm not going to do anything on the story unless there's something to do on it. But I mean, that would be. I mean, I'm invested too by having spoken on the story before. So that's the first one. The next one is Asha Degree. Now, Asha, if you remember a while back, there was huge breaking news on Asha Degree. I mean, there really was. So if you remember back in 2000, they were like, looking for this poor child, 9-year-old child who supposedly left the house in the middle of the night, walked onto the main road in a storm, and disappeared. And she's never been found, but there's been DNA linked to items that have now linked to some people who were not supposedly connected to the Degree family, but were in the area and have some interesting behaviors, shall we say. So that happened, a while back. Let me find the story, and so the news story is, okay, where is it? Asha, where'd you go? Okay, here we go. Asha Degree update, and this is coming from the Charlotte Observer, and it says the title is Significant Progress with quotes. He always put quotes around because quotes are like, is it really significant? In finding Asha Degree, because they haven't found it yet. That's what the North Carolina sheriff says. Investigators have made significant progress in finding Asha Degree, the Cleveland County girl missing for 25 years. Sheriff's officials credited recent retesting of evidence using new advancements in the technology, but were no more specific in a statement on social media. They've increased the reward to $75,000, and there you have it. Thanks to new technology and tons of work and tons of resources, money, hopefully it brings us closure soon. Okay. So in September, that's when they found this green car that they thought might be connected to the crime. They searched the properties belonging to Roy and Connie Dedman. DNA testing was done on Asha's undershirt, which was found with her backpack, matched one of the Dedman's daughters, and a man now dead who was once in their care. They did home health care. So back in September, they had some really interesting things happen. That was truly an update. And everybody thought they're going to close the case right now because that's pretty good information. But I think the problem they're having is still have no body. And this is the problem we have with Kyron Horman as well. You don't have a body. And in Kyron Horman's case, they don't have any DNA. They have nothing linking anywhere. In this case, they do have some DNA. And it is odd that the Dedman's daughter shirt would have, the DNA would be of somebody, and it's on Asha's shirt. So most people think that the Dedmans have something to do with it, especially that they think maybe the teenage daughter hit her with a car or something like that and then panicked and moved her body and the parents helped and bury her someplace. I can't exactly say. I still do not understand, because I'll stand by this because it bothers me, why Asha, 9-year-old child, would leave the home in the middle of the night in the dark with a raging storm outside when she was scared of the dark and storms, why she would leave the house and just wander out onto the highway. And there's just a whole bunch of things that are strange. I've done a whole show on Asha Degree, but I don't know. It's a very peculiar case. So is this update meaningful? Well, it's been since September. So, okay, 8 months. It's been 8 months since the big news. And now they say they're working on it. Now, the problem is maybe they have to get all those ducks in a row. Maybe they are finding things out. Don't know. But I also don't know if they're just looking at this going, that's all we got. We can't make an arrest. So I tell people you have to have patience, because sometimes it doesn't ever materialize, or it does materialize, but it might be 2 or 3 years from now. So we'll have to wait and see. Leslie says, I never considered the father until Pat's episode, because I didn't know until then about the weird story about him buying a gift late at night and then checking on the kids at 2 a.m. There was something weird about the whole thing, but that doesn't mean he had anything to do with anything. So the whole thing is very, very, it's odd that a 9-year-old child would go off into the middle of a storm. I mean, I live in a place that is very similar to that. I can imagine my granddaughter's now 11, but I can imagine when she was 9, there's no way she's going to get a backpack and leave this house, walk down the driveway and go to that lonely road out there in the dark and storm. And what the heck? People say, well, maybe she was, meeting somebody. Who? At 9 years old, they can't meet them during the day. She goes to school. She walks to school. She can meet people all the time. Why would you go in the middle of the night? So that leads me back to the house, as something is happening in that house that is concerning to me, and I don't know what it is, but it bothers me. So there's a lot of things that it's a strange story. A very big mystery if you're going to look for a mystery. And somebody else pointed out something the other day. I forgot who just did it. Said that when they found, a neighbor thought she had seen the child in the neighborhood walking. They called the police, but they didn't actually just drive around and look for the child. So, that's again, some interesting stuff, but I don't know. I do not know. So But that's the second one. The third one is Jennifer Kesse. Now, Jennifer Kesse, I think I've done a show on her too. So Jennifer Kesse, there she is, lovely girl. I guess that's her dad at the time. And that picture below is the big piece of evidence they think they have of this person walking by this fence that they think may have something to do with the crime, although that's never been proven. So everybody thinks that's the guy who abducted her, because she's never been found. That has to be the guy that abducted her. Well, all right. So let's look at the headline coming out of this one, because I was asked, do this one because, oh my God, there's something new happening. All right. This is coming from the Daily Mail. Jennifer Kesse's dad shares, here we go with the quotes here. Huge update in missing daughter case that may lead to an arrest. Well, anything may lead to an arrest. But what the heck is the anything? So you think, oh my God, there's something here, right? All right, let me tell you what it says here. It was the family contact at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement on the end of the line who gave Jennifer's dad news they'd waited for almost 2 decades. It's been a long time since Jennifer just went missing. Kesse said it was finally a happy moment for the family. I felt happy that it's moving forward. Happy that someone who has the ability to do what needs to be done is finally doing it. Happy that the resources are there and not being held back. Happy that Jennifer's finally getting her time to truly have everything thrown at her to see if we can bring her home. You know, we've been sitting around for decades, and it's kind of a good feeling. Who the persons of interest are and how many the list includes is currently unclear. Kesse says he only knows, quote, they have gotten it down to a list of several. But his gut tells him that more than one person was responsible for whatever happened to his daughter. Okay, so this is one of the problems is we have a father, a grieving father, who will guess at anything and believe anything. That's the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They've been working on it now. They're reviewing the case. It's 2 decades old. They're reviewing the case. They may have missed something. Somebody who was looking at it before may have missed something. That's why I've been brought in by certain police departments to review the case. And I go, whoa, what about this? You know, this is where I think you should be looking, and you never looked there. You know, something like that. Or this is a great suspect. Why hasn't this guy been focused on? Maybe they're looking over the case and they're narrowing down the suspect list. When they say, what is it here? That they've gotten it down to a list of several. What does several mean? Does it mean 3? Is that supposed to mean 3? Down to several what? In other words, you can have, there are 2 basic lists you can always have. One is the list of known persons of interest. And after a while, you go, that's not this guy, it's not this guy. We can narrow it down. Then you got this list of all the people you have no clue who they are. They may have not one clue who the guy is who took Jennifer. Not a clue. They may have a clue, but they may not have a clue. So there might be a huge list over here that just don't know. So this list would be the people that they've been able to identify as at least having some contact with her. Like the guy in white walking along, they don't know who the heck that guy is. So I don't think that he's on the list of unknowns. I have an idea of maybe it could be a person who maybe worked for that pizza shop because her car was dumped in an apartment complex right next to this pizza shop. And I thought maybe it could be that somebody who worked over there, because why would you leave her car in that spot unless you maybe needed to get to that area at that time? It's just an idea. But maybe they don't know who worked in that pizza shop 20 years ago. Maybe they do. Or maybe it's some guy who worked in the condo. Or maybe it's some guy who was working construction. Or maybe it was the guy she was working with. Maybe. So there's a list of suspects. Who the heck knows what they are? He doesn't. He has long feared she was trafficked by a group of people. Oh, the old trafficking. The parents and the trafficking stuff is such a nonsense. Again, you don't need to kidnap women to traffic them. Is she an attractive woman? Yes. Do they need to kidnap and get a huge police investigation when there are 20 other attractive women who have drug problems who will prostitute? You do not need to kidnap people into this sex trafficking. It's just nonsense, absolute nonsense. But parents go for that all the time, and people keep encouraging them. Meanwhile, suspicions have fallen on construction workers who were working at Jennifer's condo complex at the time. Okay. Kesse acknowledges there's still a lot of work to be done before the family will learn the truth. Well, yeah, because you have no idea if they're any closer or not, sad to say. But for the first time in 19 years, he says things are moving in a very good direction. The police said they're working on it. That's what they said. That's what they basically always say. And they say, oh, we're working on it. We've narrowed the suspect list down. Doesn't mean a lot to me. It's wishful thinking for parents. We knew all along that Jennifer's case is solvable. Maybe, maybe not. What else do we have here? He says they're whittling things down to a finite group of persons of interest. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. Am I jumping up and down thinking, oh my God, they're finally going to solve Jennifer Kesse case? No. Do I wish they would? Sure. I mean, I love it when once in a while they actually, do figure it out, find the person, get some DNA that matches somebody, and they do close the case. I mean, it's exciting. But a lot of times our updates, let me put quotes on those, aren't really updates. And it's just a little frustrating. But, the media will, and of course the parents are missing children or murdered children. They will take any media attention they can get because, I mean, Jennifer Kesse didn't get she's not like Madeleine McCann kind of attention. She got attention, pretty good attention. But any parent will want to keep that out there because they hope that somebody will say something. That's their big hope. That somebody like somebody's girlfriend at the time who was afraid to speak up or are still married to the guy, and now they've been divorced 10 years, and she finally says, I should go to the police and say what I think it's him. They're hoping for that kind of thing. And if my kid, I'd be hoping for that too. DB Cooper sleuth did a 2-hour react of your show. Well, yeah, he's got some DB Cooper sleuth about the show I did on DB Cooper. I found some of his stuff interesting. I found some of his stuff I just did not agree with. There's a lot of claims that he makes that for me, for a person outside who's worked with crime cases, I just think that's not the way things work. But he talks to one guy who says something from the FBI and he runs with it. Does he have a lot of interesting stuff? Yeah. But yeah. So I leave it to people to listen to what he has to say and listen to what I have to say, and probably won't be solved anyway. So I don't, I think it can just be interesting to look at the different possibilities. That's what I'll stay with on there. I disagree. I don't think it was an undocumented immigrant construction worker, because one of the chances that the problem really comes down to is, well, it could, no, that I take that back. If he was undocumented, well, then it may be that his name is hard to find and he disappears and it's hard to follow. That's probably true. But something about the way it went down makes me think that may not be so. I personally don't think it was a construction worker. I personally do not. But I can't remember what I said in my videos. When I do my videos, I analyze everything, and then later I can't remember what I said. I'd have to go back and watch my whole video and go, oh yeah, that's why I said that, and that's why I said that. I have some theories, and they're in the video. Go watch the video because I can't remember. But we can think it's anything. And the problem is and of course, everything is going to be an avenue of investigation. And so, yeah. And I don't know what the police are looking at now. And I don't know if they're looking in the right direction, because having worked with police departments, I've walked into some police departments and looked at what they're doing and thought, great job. See, you were right on the money here. You're going the right direction. I've walked into other police stations and gone, what are you looking at? Seriously? Okay. So, yeah. Oh, you liked it. Okay. I'm glad you did. But oh, okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. A great video with quite a bit of new insight on old and oversaturated case. Well, I always try to bring something to the table as far as just trying to understand things. Again, I always say it's an educational channel, not a crime-solving channel. So I hope people learn from it more than anything else. All right. Those are the first three things I wanted to bring up. So then someone asked me to talk. Oh, no, I'll do this one next. There is some people who are very upset about, I thought it was just kind of a funny commentary about, see if I can find it, about how the media and the people, human beings, including myself, people who are on social media, what happens when somebody who's well known has some tragic thing happen. And this article is called Emily, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, sorry, Emily Kiser? I don't know, I didn't go to her channel, so I don't know how to pronounce her name. Okay, where's that picture I had? Okay, here she is. This is her. She is an influencer. And she has, okay, let me read you part of the article. Emily's son Trig's death shows how little privacy influencers get. I'm like, that's exactly why you're an influencer, because you don't want privacy. If you wanted privacy, being an influencer is absolutely not the way to go. It isn't. And she has Emily Kiser, I guess her name is Kiser, I don't know, it could be Kiser. Kiser's millions of social media followers, millions. You're on social media and you have that many people following you. You know, there was one I did the other week where the woman was doing her show from, I guess, a beauty shop or something, and this guy came in and just shot her dead during the show. And there's always a risk of stalkers and all those kind of things, but also you're going to come under the magnifying glass if you're going to go out there and constantly put yourself and your children and everything you do under the magnifying glass. You're going to get commentary. You know what commentary I get? That there's more in this Coke, more in this Diet Pepsi than just Diet Pepsi. Because I've been called drunk. I've been called an alcoholic. I've had a glass of wine here. I've had a bottle of beer, and I do it just to have fun. But because of that, then I get criticized. Right? Just checking. At any rate, so I do get criticized, but I put myself out here. This is my job. My job is public. I don't have millions and millions of social media followers. I don't got those, but she does. And a very sad thing happened. So they were sending her prayers. She gets prayers too, regarding a drowning incident involving a 3-year-old boy days before the police confirmed it was her son. 26-year-old influencer her influencer's son Trig died days after he was pulled unconscious from a backyard pool in Chandler, Arizona. And so her 3-year-old son has died, which is horrific. And people are saying, what's happening? People are starting to look at that and say, well, why did your 3-year-old son die, drown in a pool? Well, if you live in some place and there's not a lot of media there and nobody knows who the heck you are and your son drowns in the pool, the police may just come and say, well, it was an accident, unless they don't think it's an accident, in which case it will become still news. But, she's an influencer and the 3-year-old son drowns in, apparently it seems like her backyard pool. And the question will be why? Why is your 3-year-old accessing the pool? Why was nobody watching him? So she's getting criticized. I haven't seen much on this case yet, so I don't know. But if you'll remember, just the other day, There was another case that would be the OK Baby. The OK Baby, and this is the OK Baby. Preston Ordone, and those are his parents, and he died in a car crash. And Dad was driving, and some reason the truck veered off the road. It was a one-car accident, veered off the road in the middle of the day and smashed into a tree, and he died. And the police believe he was not properly belted. The seat was not properly holding him, and that's why he died. So there's suspicions rolling around. First of all, did they properly put the kid in the seat? And secondly, why the heck did the vehicle go off the road and smash into a tree? Were they drinking, drugging? Were they taking? Were they live streaming? You know what I mean? What were they doing? I haven't got that answer either. That hasn't come in yet. But when you put yourself in the public light, this kind of thing happens. Now, a while back, I talked about this particular incident. This is a woman who calls herself Veruca Salt. And you see the little baby there. That was her baby. And her baby died what appears to be crib death, SIDS. And she has some really beautiful, loving things with that baby. And but she's this OnlyFans. She's also got an OnlyFans channel, which has pretty despicable stuff that she does and films. And she's highly tatted up, and she's very large, and a lot of people absolutely adore her. And I look at her a little bit. I wish she'd stick to just fixing up a house. She's great at decorating. My God, she puts the most beautiful spreads on tables with decorations, and I mean, I just love what she does when she does those things. However, I'm not fond of the fact she does OnlyFans, and also her history is sketchy. She once disappeared at a wedding, just vanished, and people thought they didn't know what happened to her, thought she died, she kidnapped or something. She ended up in some brothel, but nobody, and she lied about stuff. So she's got a sketchy background, which you wonder if she's an attention seeker. And when her son died, the question would be, was it truly, sudden infant death syndrome? Did she roll over on top of him? Did she smother him? Because we have the Munchausen by proxy problem. Because if you have a person who's always seeking attention and is willing to do a lot of things that are really sketchy, then you wonder whether she had this baby for attention and she got tired of taking care of the baby and she removed it. And she got lots of attention for the funeral and oh, it's so sad you lost your baby. Or did she just lose her baby? Regardless of what I think about her other behaviors, her baby just may have sadly died innocently. But you're an influencer. You're all over the place. You're constantly showing yourself off and your children off. And when your children die, people get suspicious because a lot of people think that people who are big influencers who use their children to constantly filming their children, giving their children like no privacy, raising their child in this limelight, but everything the child does is being videotaped. One question is, what kind of problem do you have that you would do that with your children? I personally don't like it. I don't think children should be constantly filmed, and I don't think the entire family should be filmed. So especially when the kids get older and they're like, they're at the table and everything they say is being seen by every friend. I think that's child abuse. I do. And I don't think, as a baby, probably not. But, once the kids get to a point where they're out and, everything about their life is being put on the internet. Just like I think if you take a child onto one of those crappy talk shows, you bring your 13-year-old teenage girl on there, you got the mother and the teenage girl and they're like cussing at each other. And she's like, I'll sleep alone if I want to. And mother goes, well, you're too young to do that. Well, Ma, you do bring all kinds of guys back to the house. I think that show should be shut down and those children should be removed because they shouldn't be on a television show airing essentially dirty laundry. But if you want to air your dirty laundry when you're over 18, that's your business. But when you bring on children and teens and put them in the public eye and have them say these things, to me, that's abuse. And so I think a lot of influencers cross the line on using their children. And that really, I'm not fond of it. So but that's why they get the attention. So if you're going out there and seeking attention in that way, you're going to have to expect it may come rolling back on you. So I think this part of the comment, oh, how terrible that people are. She's an influencer. Oh my God. Get your kids to swimming lessons. Well, keep them out of the pool in the backyard. I mean, the backyard pools have always been a little bit frightening, even smaller ones, because kids can drown. I'm still going to be doing a show probably on the woman whose daughter drowned in the pool in the backyard, but it was just like a baby pool. But that's a suspicious case, but I have to figure out how to do it. Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I mean, kids in water is scary sometimes, and so when you have a pool, you have to make sure that they're of the age where if they get out of your house, they're not going to drown in the pool. So it's very scary stuff. This is tricky. I don't really have a problem with the kids' photos being on Facebook. It should be friend, but I agree with you. It should be friends and family only. If you're going to put up those pictures, it's not like. I mean, a lot of people think if you put any kid's picture up there, that means the child predator is coming after them. Most of that's nonsense. However, I mean, if you're putting stuff about your child up there, your Facebook page should be family and friends, because that's enjoyable. I mean, it's enjoyable. I go to a lot of I have pages which I go to, and I specifically go there to see how the kids are doing on my friends' pages, my daughter's friends' pages, and I go and see, I know you're having a birthday party. And I go and look at the pictures, or you went on a trip. I have some my daughter's friends. They were over recently. They had been living in England, and now they've returned to the United States. And I'm looking at the pictures of them when they were in England and the little outfits they were wearing to school. I enjoy doing that, and I comment on her page because I know her. But on the other hand, if you go to my Facebook page, you will not see pictures of my granddaughter, because mine is not a private channel. This is not a private channel. My Facebook page. So I have thousands of people, and I don't know who the hell they are. So I don't put my granddaughter's pictures up there. At least I've done it occasionally when it's already, she's like, I can put up a 2-year-old picture when she's 10, you know what I mean? Or a baby picture, because nobody's going to make any difference. But, I would not put picture up and say, look, she just got her certificate at the such and such school, No, try not to do that. Jeremy Kyle, should I do? The name sounds familiar, but what is it? I don't watch anybody's shows, just so you know. I don't have the time. I work. This is a full-time job. I don't have time to go and watch people's channels. However, if I am told to go to the channel for some specific reason, to watch something on the channel that has relation to a case, then I'll comment. But I do know the dame. What is Jeremy Kyle? Just why does that sound familiar? Now I got to look it up because it does sound familiar. Jeremy Kyle show. What does he do? A dark and dangerous form of entertainment. Oh, that sounds creepy. Probably sounds like something I don't have an interest in. That. No clue. No clue. The malice of the Jeremy Kyle show. Apparently he is a problem. Oh, the UK Jerry Springer. Yeah, I don't like any of that crap. I've never liked that stuff ever. I find it offensive, and I find it repulsive, and I find it an unnecessary thing and a negative thing for society. I don't think we need that kind of garbage. So that is true. Some parents have no qualms making a living off of exploiting their children. That's basically true. Yeah. So, okay, now that was that. Okay, let me go to this interesting, this UK case of the murder of Michael Gaine, who Michael Gaine is, I can't say if he's guilty or not guilty And because a lot of people are pissed. I'm sorry. Burp. They think he's guilty. Let me find him. Where are you, dude? There you are. Okay, which one are you? Okay, this is Michael Gaine, and this is the guy they think murdered him, Michael Kelley. Okay, now, so Michael Gaine and Michael Kelley. Now, it says here, Michael Gaine, American murder suspect, says he's not running and has no plans to leave Ireland. Sorry, not the UK, Ireland. I learned that the other week. Ireland is not in the UK. Got it. Okay. Michael Kelley spoke out in an exclusive interview. And again, this is Michael Kelley. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's Michael Kelley. An exclusive interview with Irish Mirror where he discussed a number of topics in relation to the death of County Kerry farmer Michael Gaine, a case in which he is a suspect. Okay. And so people are like, oh my God, why aren't they arresting? Why aren't they doing something with this guy? Well, he says this. He has boldly stated, if the guards had any solid proof against him, he would already be facing charges. And that's correct. He's whether he's guilty or not, he is correct about that. If they had solid evidence, he would have been arrested, but they don't. So that's a problem they're having. And he's not planning on leaving Ireland anytime soon. He's a former Army vet, but he also came clean about his status as an illegal immigrant and shared that he spent 7 years hiding underground in Ireland before being thrust into the limelight following the death of the Kerry farmer. He's been off the grid and he loves Ireland. So apparently he was in his military service. He insists he never took a life. His decision to leave the army, in other words, he went AWOL, after a U.S. assault on Iraqis during the Gulf War. So he did not like what they were doing, so he bolted and went AWOL and has been hiding in Ireland. Okay. That doesn't make him a bad guy. It makes him a guy who, the military could have an issue with him, but it doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. Maybe he just couldn't take it anymore, thought it was wrong, had a moral issue with it, and left. And he's just been off the grid ever since, trying not to be found. All right. Then it says here, the loss of his children in a custody battle with his wife, where he wrongly accused her of engaging in witchcraft. Okay, that's a little interesting. It's like, what? You accused her of what? Witchcraft. Okay. I don't know. I don't have a ton of information here. And I'm not doing a full video, so I don't have a ton yet. And he accepts that the human remains found in a slurry tank are indeed those of Gaine, as confirmed by DNA tests. All right. So he said, we also queried Mr. Kelley on whether he had witnessed the heartfelt plea from Mr. Gaine's wife, Janice, broadcast by the guards, urging anyone with information to step forward. He said, yes, I did. I can't discuss it further. I can only confirm that I saw it. Pressed on why further details were off the table, he stated, do you understand what I'm saying? My solicitor is my doctor, and I'm following doctor's orders. Mr. Kelley expressed his reluctance to delve into the issue, saying he didn't want to, quote, open up a can of worms with those in the slurry. But affirmed that he'd be happy to discuss matters of record or matters of fact. So he says he's not gossiping, is what he's saying. Laying bare his circumstances, he shared, I have been living underground and hiding from the immigration authorities for 7 years. I am currently under a deportation order. With a note of resolve, Mr. Kelley asserts his affection for Ireland and assures that despite being a suspect, he has no plans to vanish and doesn't foresee being deported while the investigation is ongoing. He elaborated on his predicament, revealing, the thing is, my legal status is that I'm illegal. I'm illegal. When I left the asylum system, I was no longer an asylee. I don't know how to say that. Detailing the conditions of the situation. Basically, I have an ongoing deportation order. The conditions of it are that I have to report to the guard station every 4 or 5 days, and they issue an extension. They then issue me an extension until they're done here with whatever they're doing. So right now, there's a deportation order, but because he's under investigation, he can keep staying there. He admits he's not contesting his unlawful status, and he said, no, I'm not fighting it. As far as ending up in the database, he says they have an obligation. They found an illegal. They found me, and I've appeared on the screen after being underground. I am illegal. I am subject to deportation under the law, and that is a matter of fact. But they're basically kicking the can down the road by having me come in and report to them. So he's not going to run away. He's going to stay, and he's been open about what they are, basically what is fact. Then he says, in 2009, his ex-wife was awarded custody of the 2 children following his unfounded allegations she was involved in witchcraft. All right, now what about whether he's involved in this case, in the murder here? Let's see. He's saying, well, before it was confirmed that that the victim, before it was confirmed that Mr. Gaine's remains had been identified, he thought that he might actually still be among the living. He was like, maybe just disappeared. But now that's not true. I have authenticated the dismembered remains found in slurry on his property. Now, you want to ask, what was he doing on their property? This is the real interesting part to me. Let me find it here. The American citizen recounted how he lived with Mr. Gaine, whom he described as being okay. Wow, that's just okay. He's okay, maybe except for the witchcraft. No, for a span of 3 years, a situation made possible by the farmer's agreement to let him dwell and labor on the land. And he shared that he had no objections to images of him doing work on the property, chopping wood with an axe amid the ongoing search. I'm just doing my chores. So he's like a handyman. And one of the things I've always said, you got to be careful of handymen. Why? Because some of them are great, but some of them are people who have questionable past and who do not have good ties and may have psychiatric problems. I may have personality disorders, then whatever. They need a place to stay. They need a job. And you bring them onto your land and into your house, and you just really don't know who the heck they are unless they are actually a well-known person in town. Which is then you know who it is. But a lot of times people put up a sign, like a call me if you need help doing whatever. And it's in the coffee shop or they answer an ad or whatever, and you just don't know who the heck they are. And they sometimes are a little sketchy. So this guy basically brought on a guy to work. He worked there for 3 years, so he didn't kill him for 3 years if he did it. He still thought the guy was okay, or at least for 3 years. But he was on the land when this guy ends up in the slurry. So who else would have done it? Now, he does have a theory, mind you. So Mr. Kelley asserted his innocence, suggesting, quote, there may be elements that want to string me up, implicating, quote, people who have an interest in organized crime, people who are involved in organized crime. What? So the farmer was involved, unless the farmer really was involved in organized crime. I'm not sure why they would be killing the farmer, and they'd be killing the farmer and pinning it on the vagrant, essentially, and the undocumented fellow. Of course, I didn't really pin it on him because apparently there's no actual evidence, so that we know of. So it's not like there was, dropped the body. They didn't drop the body in his little wherever he was actually staying in. They didn't put his fingerprints on a grab a hoe that he was using and had fingerprints on it and kill the guy with the hoe and then leave that there. It's not like they set him up in any such way. It's just they killed him on the property and then they just got lucky because that guy was there. Well, maybe, but yeah. Furthermore, he disclosed to us his experience of being interviewed by the guards, during which he was presented with glossy photographs of a chainsaw, considered to possibly have been used in the dismemberment of Mr. Gaine's remains. The chainsaw thing is preposterous, or they would have charged me. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre bullshit? I mean, please, preposterous. Well, not necessarily preposterous. They wanted to see a reaction if they thought the chainsaw was used, but they don't have his fingerprints on it or DNA on it. And they're like, hey, And even if they did, if he used a chainsaw to cut down trees and stuff, the chainsaw would be on the property and so would he. So that wouldn't actually prove he killed the guy and chopped his body up with a chainsaw. So, but they're probably looking for a reaction. Mr. Kelley, hailing from Maine in the U.S., disclosed to us what happened when he saw the glossy photographs of the chainsaw. I said, why are the blank? Is the glossy photograph have anything to do with Michael Gaine's body? I didn't see it. This is a little card game they're playing. What's your evidence? Where's some macabre photo? So he's looking for a photo of the body. I thought it was in the slurry. Do I think he likely could be the fellow who did it? Sure. Do I think they have any evidence at this point to prove it? Probably not, which is why he is walking around free. Or he didn't do it. There you go. That's the way things work. Sounds like an opportunistic, parasitic type man. He definitely did it. Well, I think your first sentence is correct. The second sentence, well, again, I mean, he's on the property and he is a sketchy person. So obviously that's where they're going to look first, unless there's somebody else also on the property, or somebody else has some information as to what he's been, maybe could have been involved in something that did piss somebody else off. It could be a neighbor, it could be, who knows? I don't know much about his family or what's going on, circumstances of his life. I don't know any of that yet, but yeah. But he's an interesting little one there. Let's see what else. Oh, and then, what is that? I'm trying to figure out that picture. Oh, I was asked about the issue of Lucy Letby. I think it was Benny was asking me about that. Let me go back and look. Lucy Letby, of course, this, let's see, where was it? Hold on a second. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Now, Benny brought this up, and he was asking me this question. And the question was this. Hold on, let me find what the question went to. Why on earth is it that almost all UK people questioning everything regarding her conviction? I mean, what she did should be so shocking and disturbing that the masses should be appalled by her and not be appealing for her freedom. Well, this seems to happen with women who kill children over and over again. You have the New Zealand case. The governor said, no, she's innocent. Now she's free, and the evidence doesn't point to innocence. We see a lot of these cases, women who kill children, and somehow there's pity for the women who kill children. And you would think there'd be even less of it for somebody who didn't even kill their own children. They killed somebody else's children in such a horrific way. But I think the other problem we're having is there's a over some sympathy for women. If a man did the same thing, he probably wouldn't get quite near that kind of sympathy. But there is also a hatred of hospitals right now and the healthcare system. So I think people are looking for any excuse to say that the reason that what really happened was malpractice and a cover-up of malpractice. And the problem is that does happen. This is where the tricky part always comes in. Sometimes it does happen. It could be one doctor who is doing poorly and malpractice and makes wrong decisions, or a nurse who doesn't kill on purpose but actually does something in an accident that kills a kid. And the hospital's like, not only are we going to get sued crapless, but our reputation goes down the drain because maybe one or two people. So what they do is they try to play it down. They do cover it up. And they also try to sometimes push that person to have them leave. And then they go someplace else and do it someplace else. Sometimes you don't find out about a serial killer who kills babies, for example, or an anesthesiologist who kills patients on the table until they go to 4 different hospitals and people keep dying when they're there, when they're 4 different places. Okay. And so finally, the last place goes, okay, they did this. But there is sometimes a cover up because they just don't, because it's such a huge system, and they try to downplay things that would make them look bad. And that I do believe is true. But the problem comes down to is people will jump to that before they'll be willing to say, hey, this person actually committed this crime. Now she looks so sweet, and because she looks so sweet, they say, even if she has all these behaviors, tons of behaviors, why? We just don't think she actually did those things. Now, this is over at Reddit, and Benny sent this to me, and it says here, does the new evidence really prove Lucy Letby is innocent? Okay, in summary, this is from Liz Hall. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, we did not find any murders. That was a broad proclamation of retired Canadian neonatologist Dr. Shuley during an extraordinary press conference with Lucy Letby's defense team last week. He told assembled journalists that none of the 17 babies who featured in the former neonatal nurse's 10-month trial had been attacked or killed. In reality, Dr. Lee said they were victims of poor medical treatment at an understaffed unit where doctors didn't know how to work equipment or properly look after the vulnerable, premature infants entrusted to their care. A group of 14 international experts invited to analyze the baby's medical notes had found, quote, new natural causes for their sudden collapses and deaths, the doctor claimed. Lucy's barrister, Mark McDonald, described these findings as a game changer in a submitted report to the Criminal Case Review Commission. One of the problems I've been having recently with the supposed scientific things, it's the same thing happened. My voice, I kind of like, okay, the woman in New Zealand, why do I blank on her name? I always have to put this in. New Zealand baby killer. Baby killer released. That's what I'm gonna put in there. Baby killer released. Okay. That would be not that. What's her name? Oh no, maybe it wasn't New Zealand. Was it Australia or New Zealand? Somebody help me out here. Who? I did a whole I did a video on it. No, it was Folbig. Thank you. God bless it. I've got a block on Folbig's name. Kathleen Folbig. Okay, so Kathleen Folbig. This is she's Australian, so I got sorry, Australia. And sorry you have Folbig, Australia. But just I'll just do the quick thing on her. She was an Australian woman who was convicted in 2003 of murdering 4 of her infant children. She was pardoned in 2023 after 20 years in jail, following a long campaign for justice by her supporters, and had her convictions overturned on appeal. No direct evidence of the alleged crimes was ever found, but every time that baby died, she was in the room. She had a diary that shows stuff. She's Munchausen syndrome by proxy, in my opinion. I have no question about it. But the problem that came in here, and this is where it goes to hell, essentially. Scientific and medical research suggesting the daughters might have died of natural causes was rejected by a judicial inquiry in 2019. But subsequent research published in 2020 led 90 eminent Australian scientists and medical professionals in March 2021 to petition the New South Wales governor to pardon Folbig. The petition, so that's what happened. They claimed that the children had rare genetic disorders. These two had this rare genetic disorder, and these two had this rare genetic disorder. But if you go to my Folbig analysis, there is no way by doing the basic statistics on it, there is no way these 4 children all died of these genetic things. It's absolute nonsense. Even 2 of these, who supposedly had the same one, if you look at the statistics, that both of them dying of the same thing at the age they were at is almost impossible. These 2 had genetic things that are only known in mice. And even that evidence or the scientific conclusions or whatever didn't match up to these 2 either. And then to have all 4, absolutely insane. And they ignored all the other evidence. But they got 90 scientists to sign on to this crap. which gives me no confidence in the scientific community and these doctors who just don't seem to care about the truth, that they're willing to say almost anything because they're on the defense side. That's the thing. It's become this big, weird thing where, just like the Innocence Project, getting out all these guilty people because they don't care about the truth. And once in a while they get out an innocent person, but that isn't the majority of them. And it is problem. It is problem. And also this, I'm going to do a show on this guy. Where'd he go? I don't know if I had a picture of him, but I want to do a show on, maybe I do have a picture of him. Where are you, dude? Here he is. Is that him? Yeah, here he is. Marvin Mutch. So this was California Innocence Project, was all over this. He was in jail. He was in prison for killing a young girl years ago when he was, very, very young. In 1990. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Okay, he supposedly murdered a girl named Kesse Riley in 1974, and they said he was innocent. Well, right now, so there's there's all this hope, and they were getting him out of there and all that stuff. They got the guy out of prison. They paroled him. They couldn't get him out another way. They couldn't prove his innocence, but they paroled him because they believed he was. He spent over 4 decades in prison after being convicted of the murder of a 13-year-old girl. And he's 68 years old now. He was found in possession of child sexual abuse material. Nice guy. So I'll probably do a show on him just because I've seen the evidence. There was evidence. And they're claiming there was not. And so again, it's this concept of fighting for the underdog and saying this person is unjustly accused of. It's the government. The police are corrupt. The government's corrupt. And I'm not objecting to the fact that sometimes they are, but sometimes scientists are corrupt and doctors are corrupt. And sometimes YouTubers are corrupt. You know what I mean? So I think Lucy Letby. Now the scientists are out there. I wouldn't be surprised if they win the day because that's where things are going these days, and it is concerning that they're more interested in whatever agenda they have rather than in is it true or is it not. And this is where emotion comes in over and over. I say a lot of it's emotion because if you, it's a while again like the idea of a professional jury, because if you're only going to be a civilian juror one time in your life and you have no preparation and no training, you're likely to have much more emotion and than somebody who does this as a living, and that's why people say, how can you laugh sometimes? It's because I do this for a living. Doesn't mean I don't have sympathy. It doesn't mean I don't care for victims. It doesn't mean any of that. But I'm able to compartmentalize, for the most part. And once in a while, I'm a human. But that's a lot of people get highly, highly invested. And they especially with children, they don't know. Like let's say, for example, Sebastian Rogers. I've seen the word, and this happened. This is a common thing, and maybe some of you use this word, and I see it all over the internet, and people comment all over my comment page. Sweet. The word is sweet. That sweet boy. I hope that sweet boy comes home. Those sweet children. And sweet. And I'm bothered by that in a weird way, just as a professional, because I'm like, you don't know this kid. This isn't your sweet child. I might think my sweet granddaughter because she's my granddaughter. And I know other kids are sweet too. And I know other people think their kids are sweet. But the problem is that this emotional, I don't know these children. They don't live even in my country. Whoa, hello. Thank you very much, San Francisco Gate. The video just started on the article. These are children you don't even know. You don't know them. You don't know what Sebastian Rogers is like. You don't know what Madeline McCann was like. You have no clue. I mean, are they probably nice kids because they're still kids? Sure, but they could be crappy little kids too. You don't know. But that's not the point. The point is that when you're putting the adjective sweet on, it's an emotional thing. Oh, that sweet child, this is unfair. So get very, very emotional. Sweet Kyron, poor Kyron out there, sweet Kyron, and it does have a cute little picture standing next to a science thing, and then they get angry, super angry. Well, the sweet boy didn't deserve what happened to him. Of course not. The sweet boy and not the evil woman, and then people go berserk because they're unable to take their emotions out of it and look at the evidence. So again, there's two boxes for me. There's the evidence box, and this is the analyzing area. And then there's a human area, which I can put over here. And working in hospitals is the same thing. You can't do a job in a hospital and get emotional every time you're interpreting for somebody. When I was doing sign language interpreting, can't do that. You might have feelings, but you can't. You have to, squash them and do your job. You might go home and never forget it, mind you. You might have PTSD from it, and so do police detectives. They deal with the stuff they have to deal with, like, for example, child abuse. The things that they have seen in child abuse is worse than homicide unit. Child abuse is the worst unit to be in because you're hearing from the children themselves. You're seeing photos. You're seeing videos. It's enough. It'll crush a person. But while they're working, they must be professional. And yeah, they might have PTSD the rest of their lives. But while they're doing it, they better be professional. So this is one of the tricky things about when you're analyzing cases. If you allow those emotions to get in the way, you can't see things. So, but apparently with Lucy Letby, it's sweet Lucy Letby and not the sweet little babies. Go figure. That's weird. People don't put as much, babies really don't get a lot of play. I mean, it's really strange. This is really true. The older the person is, the more people pay attention to them because they have a whole history and a past, and they're like real people. The younger the child is, the less people feel up for that child. And when it's a baby, it's just a baby. So when the teen mom goes into the bathroom during prom and kills her baby and drowns it in the toilet and then put it in a trash bag and throws it away, people don't feel that sorry for the baby because the baby didn't really it's just not real yet. It doesn't have a name yet. It doesn't have a history of anything. So the smaller the child, the less people actually feel for the child. And so babies are the ones that people can put all their feelings toward the person who killed them and not the baby. It's just an interesting thing. So, Krista, there are no nice children except from the parents' perspective. Sometimes that's true. It's like, my little darling. You're like, keep your little darling over there. I'm not overly fond of cameras in courts. What I prefer, I don't mind a camera in the court, but I don't want the trial to be, I personally do not think the trial should be televised while the trial is going on. I prefer that if the trial should end and then there can be a review of the trial and people's commenting on it. But I think putting it out there like a reality show, I think does damage to the entire trial system. That's just my thinking on that. So, wasn't the nurse in Denmark innocent? Which nurse was that? And how do we prove that she was how was she proven innocent? Give me the name and I'll check her out. But I'm not familiar with that one. So let me know who that is. I can look it up right now. Denmark nurse innocent. Denmark nurse. Oh, come on now, stop that. Why is this causing me trouble? Give me Google. Okay, Denmark nurse innocent. There has to be one. Oh, you're talking about Christina Astrup, who was wrongfully accused of murdering patients, later exonerated. Lucia Burke case, a Dutch nurse wrongly convicted, is another example. Well, just because they say she was wrongfully convicted doesn't mean she was wrongfully convicted. I see this with Innocence Project all the time. This person was wrongfully convicted. I'm like, no, they weren't. They were rightfully convicted. You just believe they were wrongfully convicted. So I'll have to look into the case. I'll look in and see whether I see. I'm not saying that there aren't people who are wrongfully convicted. The problem is those are the people we should focus on. We should absolutely focus on those people and not people who are not wrongfully convicted. So I got both of these cases. I'll look into both of them. You think that was a botched case? The Dutch case, Lucia, yeah, the Lucia, but the Dutch case was, yeah. Yeah, let me look up both of those, and I might do maybe I'll do a nurse's thing, but I'll be curious about it. So, and who is it? Let me finish up with this question that was asked. Where is it? Pat, there have been debates over a sexual assault suspect should have anonymity or not like the victims until there's clear evidence. What's your opinion? I just did last week this thing about the firefighter in my area who has been accused of sexually assaulting a boy who worked at the fire department some 30 years ago. He has been arrested. They didn't say what the evidence was that got him arrested. But what's sad is that, let's say there's not really solid proof and they arrest him anyway, and his name goes into the newspaper, and now everybody thinks he could be a completely innocent man. He's in his 60s now. He's retired. Here he is with his grandchildren, and now everybody thinks he's a pervert and a child predator. And yet it never comes to anything. But his name is already destroyed. And the same thing was true on the show I just did on the two nuns, and where they murdered by the priests. And the woman, Jean Warner, who is front and center for the show, the Netflix show, The Keepers. She's in there talking about these priests doing these things to her, and she names two of those priests. And she's now one of them. I didn't see much evidence against it all from anybody else. So basically, she put his name out there and said he did this to her, and his name is ruined. He's dead now, but his name is ruined. And I don't believe that was anything ever proven against him. The other fellow was a little bit more questionable, but again, the thing she said he did, I know he did not do. He may have done something, but not that. And so, but the level of, but without proof of that stuff is really, really problematic, especially these days. What we have with the Me Too movement is people popping up and saying, this person did this to me 10 years ago. And there's no way that person can disprove that unless you have a tape recording where the guy confessed to it. How are you going to prove you didn't do it? There have been people whose lives have been ruined. There was a football player, I forgot what his name was, and the girl came out and said he raped her, and he was tossed off the football team. I guess tossed out of the college, and then eventually she confessed that he didn't do it. But his name has been ruined. His life has been ruined because without any proof, his name was put out there. So I do have a problem with that. And, I have two sons, and I find it scary that somebody could pop out of the woodwork and say one of them did something and destroy their whole life without a shred of actual physical proof. But they never even went to the police and reported it and had testing done and had the person brought in immediately, because there are women who lie, and that's a fact. And they can destroy somebody's life. So I do have a problem with having that be public. I don't think it should be. Yeah, unless he's arrested and charged and sufficient. I mean, sufficient before, if he's arrested and charged and not at the point where he is not out in public because he doesn't get bail because he is that bad. Well, then nobody has to worry about him hurting anybody else anyway. But to just ruin the guy's name, and I don't know. Yeah, I do have issues with that. I think that's scary stuff. Yeah, that's correct. The stain never goes away. And you want people, and the way people believe things, they just believe stuff. and that'll follow you everywhere. So, no way you can do anything. I don't know what you do. I think you just have to leave the country and go live someplace where nobody can change your name. Otherwise, every place you go, it's like, oh yeah, you're that guy. You rape women. Yeah, that's scary stuff. Carla says, my personal opinion is that they protect the name of the complainant. They should protect the name of the defendant before and during the trial. I'm okay with that. Names should be released if convicted. I'm good with that. I don't necessarily think it has to be the business of the entire freaking world. Yeah, I don't. And if you're going to, the funny thing is, if you're going to make an accusation, you should be more than willing to put your name out there. More so than if the accusation is being made against you. I mean, if you're innocent, the accusation is against you, can ruin your name. If you are the accuser, you should in no way accuse unless it's true. So I'm very big about that in general. That's why I've never done anything that didn't have my name on it. My Facebook page, Twitter, everything has my name on it because I want people to know who I am. If I'm willing to speak up in public, I want you to know that this is what I'm saying. And does it have a risk? Sure. It's always a risk if you're speaking up that somebody's not going to like what you say, and they're going to know who said it. So Christoph says, generally speaking, all, quote, erotic actions between people are legally difficult because there are no witnesses. Correct. As it should be with, quote, erotic things. It's one person's word against another. It's highly important. I've said this for people who do not want to be victimized. You don't go to somebody's house that you don't trust implicitly, to their apartment. You don't go to their bedroom. You don't go to the hotel room unless you trust them implicitly or you're planning to have sex with them, and vice versa. For the guys, I'm talking about mostly for women there. For guys, when you hook up with a girl in the bar and you bring her to your house, you're playing with fire. If you don't know her and you don't know what kind of crazy person she is, she may come back and accuse you of crap. You won't be able to defend yourself because it's just word against word, unless you have a video of what you're doing, something that'll prove you didn't do anything wrong. But consensual stuff is very difficult. Whether something's consensual or not gets really tough, especially when you bring in alcohol, and then you bring in, people just the power thing where, oh my God, I went with this football player and he did something I didn't want. You were in his hotel room. What do you think? Why were you in his hotel room? Well, we were just going to sit on the bed and kiss. Really? Okay, but you're there because he's a football player. You weren't there because he was cleaning the hotel. You know what I mean? So you had your reasons for being there. So it becomes like, who's telling the truth? We just don't know. On the other hand, you could be that stupid and go in there and sit on his bed and kiss him, and then he's just moves on, and you're like, no, I don't really want to, and it's too late. Well, you gotta protect yourself. If you don't want to get in these situations, please do not get in these situations. And I say that both male and female. So it's a tricky situation. Let's see if I have anything like. Oh, let's see. People ask me if I'm going to do anything about Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs, and I'll just say this right now. All I hear is a whole bunch of complaint from his ex, his ex, who clearly was there for the money, the fame, and was willingly going to these freakouts. And yet, was he violent? Yes, he was. But so far, I'm waiting to get to the part of the trial where he was arrested for racketeering and all that kind of stuff, sex trafficking, racketeering. I want to hear that evidence, not just that he was a jerk or an abuser. Yeah, he was those things. That's true, but that's a whole different issue than what he's been the big things he's been charged with. So I haven't gotten into that because I just don't see any evidence yet. I haven't seen anything more than he's a you don't want to date the guy. So I'm waiting to hear more about that. Let's see what else I want to look into. This is just a fun one. If a groom smashes cake into the bride's face, especially if she asks him not to do it, what do you think the problem is? This was a recent one where the guy apparently he smashed it with a fork full of wedding cake into her face with a freaking fork and cut her lip because he smashed it. I'm always amazed at this kind of stuff. You know, the concept that, you know, when you're getting married, this whole smashing thing that's even done, if you're getting married, it's supposed to be a very beautiful affair of two people who love each other, having that gentle and sweet moment, not smashing each other's faces with cake. I mean, yeah, it's not funny. That things don't sound like they're starting off right. Yeah, that's it's a big problem. I mean, if somebody does it, I think if my husband had done that to me when we got married and took that cake and smashed it in my face, rashed up my makeup, it didn't break my teeth, but now the stuff is all over my clothes and my face, and everybody's laughing. That would be the first day of our marriage. It would be the last day of our marriage. It would have been done. Yeah, there you go, Amy. Call the priest back from the parking lot or reverse the vows. Absolutely. That is, if you'll do that during your wedding, in front of all these people, humiliate you and embarrass you and ruin the beauty of it all, that's in front of people. Guess what he's going to do behind closed doors? That is not a nice thing. I mean, it's like, but you know, you do hear about these things, and it's pretty sick. Pretty sick. Let's see. I just want to see what my time is here. I may save this other one for next week. I'm exhausted from doing the Sherri Papini thing. that was a long day of her, and I think she wore me out. So it's not only just terribly immature; it's cruel. And I think a lot of times a lot of people call things immature, which are not just immature; they're cruel. They show by the time you are even a teenager, you should have some sense of decency and know what is okay and not okay, how to treat people. If you haven't learned how to treat people properly by then, probably it's going to be a problem into your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. You're going to have that same kind of behavior inside of a relationship, because it's not just immature. And it's funny because I do see that a lot. And that's one of the reasons people get into trouble, that before they get married, they, especially when you're younger, the tendency is to say, well, that person's immature. Once they get a little older, and you find out they don't change. And it wasn't immaturity, it was lack of respect, or narcissism. Like, you don't really matter as much, so that's why I did it. So gotta be careful about the immaturity label. Makes me glad for my $30 courthouse wedding, no cake to be smashed. Yeah. This whole bridezilla thing, this is something for a guy to pay attention to. If your fiance is a bridezilla, you're marrying that bridezilla. That day, if she's making that day into something insane and highly selfish and ridiculously expensive, and she's expecting all of her girlfriends and everybody to do these ridiculous things, like everybody has to put out $800 for the dress they have to wear, or I'm having our wedding's going to be in it's going to be in Cancun or Hawaii, and therefore destination wedding. Therefore, all of you people have to spend a fortune to come to my wedding. Whatever happened to a freaking honeymoon? You have the wedding where your friends are and you go on a honeymoon. You don't make them pay for tickets and hotels so they can watch you get married. To me, I don't know where that whole idea came from. I think it's hideous. And somebody who says, I want you to come to my wedding in wherever. I mean, if it's a destination I absolutely wanted to go to anyway and was willing to go there and have some extra company, yeah, I might do it. But if you're going to pick a place I don't want to go to, yeah, I'm not coming. I'm not spending all my money on a vacation I don't want to take. I think it's absolutely outrageous. And all this massive amount of money spent But it's not just the family spending the money. They're asking everybody else to spend the money too. And I'm like, have a nice, quiet, small wedding. You're supposed to be getting married, not throwing this monster bash. You know what I mean? You don't have to do that. And so if you're marrying somebody who thinks that their day has to cost $200,000 and make everybody freaking miserable, that's not immaturity or just a wedding thing. It's who they are. Be careful of that. So, yeah, I did. I also had a small wedding. I got married in my parents' condo, and it was quite amusing actually, because I got my husband got a suit. I got a $70 dress. Nobody there. I didn't have any bridesmaids. So just my sisters were there, and a couple of good friends, and his family came, and the pastor from his church came and did the ceremony. And we stood in the living room, and my mother had wine and cheese and crackers, and my in-laws were teetotalers, so it was my husband and I were the ones drinking, and it was like we're going on our honeymoon, so we were probably the ones having more any of the champagne or wine or whatever. It was pretty cheap. It was just small. And during the ceremony, the pastor, he went, "Do you?" And he looks at my husband and he says, "Do you?" And then he stepped closer and said, "What is your name?" And everybody burst out laughing, because there was a reason for this, because he was known as Tony, but that wasn't the name he was born with, because in Jamaica, you get one name and then they call you another name. So he was a Uzziel who was called Tony. Then there was Albert, who was called Fred, and Cessford, who was called Simon, and Arlene, who was called Sally, and Mavis, who was called Janet. And then the last kid, she didn't get a nickname. I don't know what the heck happened to Nadine. But anyway, so he didn't know. He always knew him with the nickname. He never knew his real name. So he all of a sudden realized he just didn't know it. And it was pretty funny. So we all laughed. But he's now an ex. My husband's now an ex. So, but we did have 25 years. So at least that. So, but it was a lovely wedding, perfectly fine. My father took pictures, and which I didn't feel a great need for a massive wedding. I just, but I understand some people like slightly larger, beautiful weddings with more stuff. I'm just saying that's fine too. Just when it gets to the point of you're turning into Bridezilla, you might want to look in the mirror, and your fiance might want to break that mirror and run away. Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're supposed to get a gift too on top, and pay for the bachelor parties and the bachelor parties and the bachelorette parties and all that crap. Oh my God. Yeah, then destination, in my opinion, destination weddings are ultimate narcissism. They're just so annoying. I tell you, it's beautiful. I mean, I love Hawaii. So, I understand you want to stand on the beautiful Hawaiian beach, and Hawaii is a gorgeous place. But I mean, you shouldn't be making your families have to go out there, and then you have to exclude people who can't afford it. If you're going to pay for the whole dang thing, that's one thing. It's like, okay, we're renting the entire hotel, and I've got an airline ticket for each one of you. Well, then you can do it because you're rich as crap, and you're going to invite everybody and pay for it. But it's just really sad. I mean, it's like, okay, so maybe my parents can afford to come, or your parents can afford to come, but maybe your sister can't. And then they have to take off time from work. And what do they do with their kids? And do they have to pay the second ticket for the husband? I think it's insane. And I say, unless you're paying for the whole damn thing, unbelievable. Not much choice on my part. My mother did all the planning. Things used to be more like that. You're on a large Italian wedding. Oh, that might have been fun. But I'll bet the food was great and the wine better. Oh yeah, I'd like to be at that one. Yeah. So my favorite wedding story, and then I'll stop for the evening. My favorite wedding story though was a next door neighbor. I was living in Minnesota. The next door neighbor had the adults had a bunch of children. They got divorced, and the woman, who was now probably 50s, maybe, I don't know, she found a fella, and so they got married in the backyard of her house, and where she was staying, I guess, with a fella. But anyway, they had the wedding in the backyard, and it was very hot. and they put out, the chairs out in the backyard, folding chairs, and the preacher or whoever the guy was, because he came from the internet, he's standing up there going, and my internet site is and then he's about to do the vows, and the bride's mother said, she suddenly stands up and grabs her chair and says, "It's too goddamn hot out here." And she takes the chair and just walks off. My sister and I were just, we were in hysterics. We couldn't make it through the rest of the wedding. We were laughing so hard. It's like, who does that? But they were kind of an interesting group of people. So anyway, that's it, guys. So I will be back on probably Sunday with whatever show, and you can still put your question before Sunday comes. I have a bunch of them I'm thinking of right now. Not sure which one I'm going to do. But since the last show that I did on Sunday I had to demonetize, so far they haven't, I haven't put it up yet, so far they haven't taken the actual video down, but I had to do, it's not monetized because I can't, because of the content. After I read the woman's book, I figured there's no way I can monetize this video because YouTube will remove it really quickly. So we'll see what happens with it. But it's a lot of work for a demonetized video, but hopefully I'll get some support for that. So it'll be up on Saturday or Sunday. So we'll see. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. And off to watch the Papini vid. Oh yeah. Well, I hope you like it, and maybe it'll save you from watching the whole show. But it is interesting to watch it because what a liar! Oh my God, she's not as unlikable as Karen Reed, but she's a close second. She really is. She's a close second. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. And again, if you're new to the channel, please do like, subscribe, click on the Patreon link, and join Patreon and be at the lives. And I'll see the rest of you guys this weekend. Bye-bye.